we can't keep planning for the long term. Eventually, you kind of got to act for the here and now.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking of it as like it's a big it's a tactical win, but a vibes loss. Welcome to the Vamos Morados podcast, your source for everything racing in Louisville City on the State of Louisville Podcast Network. I'm Zach.
I'm Benton. You mix it up a little bit today.
I feel like changing it.
Good. I like it. Good for you. Keep being creative. The creative juices are flowing because a lot of good things are happening.
I'm in a good mood, so yeah, I'm willing to change things up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, before we dive into the soccer action, I'd like to know what you're into.
So this week I have been, this is a really random one. I've been watching Star Wars Rebels, the cartoon from like a couple years ago, probably more than a couple years ago. Because I don't remember, I think a couple of the characters show up in the Ahsoka show, and it's one that I never watched. So I have been going back to that. It's been pretty interesting.
Is that unreal? Is that like different than the Clone Wars one? Because that, like, when I think of like the old cartoon ones, that's the one I think of.
It's got like it looks similar to Clone Wars, like the animation style is the same. It takes place like a couple years before A New Hope. I think it's like 5 or 10 years, or probably about 5 years before A New Hope, kind of that Empire era. And it's got like say like a crew of people working for the Proto Rebellion, but mostly just sort of doing like doing pirate stuff against the Empire. It's pretty fun. A lot of just like stealing shipments of things and giving them to people that need them and stuff like that.
Han Solo kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But yeah, because I remember when the Ahsoka show came out, which I didn't really watch much of, but people mentioned that it was basically like a live action Rebels sequel because so many of the characters from Rebels pop up in it. So I wanted to go back and rewatch that. I haven't made it. I'm only about midway through the first season. I know Darth Maul shows up. He's like a big villain in it, which I do think it's hilarious of all of the people to like have a death and then come back.
I was going to say, I'm like, he's dead.
He's like the most dead anyone has ever been in a movie. He like got cut in half.
That's probably the most violence we saw in a Star Wars film.
And of everyone to come back, he's the one that like lived for like 40 years after that in canon.
Oh, I'm interested in how they explain that one away.
He gets robot legs, and then I think they do because they got force witches. That's a thing. I think that they do some like force voodoo magic and get him his leg. I don't know, but I do know at some point he's got robot legs, and then at some point he's got sort of realish legs. Really feel bad for Qui-Gon though, because he just sort of got stabbed, and it seems like everyone else that has gotten stabbed has been just fine. He's the only guy that's died from that.
Ben Kenobi got like just touched by the lightsaber and literally just disappeared.
Well, no, he just I'm out. That was all on him. He's just, you know what? I'm good. I'm done. I'm just gonna go be a Force ghost now.
Oh man,
I'm not gonna give you the satisfaction.
Vader went in for it, but the old lightsaber fighting is interesting to watch compared to the newer stuff.
It is very funny because like we can't leave anything alone. We've done like an entire prequel series to that, and the difference between the fight they have like literally 5 years before that versus that one, like, man, age comes for you fast. Those two went downhill quick.
Yeah, there's not a lot of mobility in those knees anymore.
Well, and it kills me, like, because we've made everything out of order, like the amount of power Darth Vader has just like it has grown over time as things have been made, but the things weren't made in order. So like he goes from like being able to pull an entire spaceship out of the sky to like a couple years later, he's just sort of like it takes all of his concentration to like throw some tubes and boxes across
What
across a room at Luke Skywalker.
What was that one movie where he showed up at the end, like where it goes right into the New Hope?
Yes.
Yeah, like that entrance he had in the end of that movie versus then what
the
he
difference
immediately
between
does.
the hallway fight he has at the end of Rogue One to like 5 minutes later, the hallway fight he has at the start of A New Hope is crazy. Maybe he like tore his ACL in the middle of that fight.
That's all the juice. Yeah, never the same again.
What about you, Ben? What have you been into this week?
That went really off the rails.
Oh, you didn't even get me started on my thoughts on lightsaber physics and how it's different in everything they make, and sometimes it bounces and sometimes it goes straight through things. Anyway,
we'll save that for a bonus episode.
I'm team bounce, by the way, just for the record.
So this past weekend, I went up to Detroit and got to explore and visit there. And one of the genesis of that trip was going to a Tigers game. Long story short is that I've been to a lot of different ballparks and I'm trying to check them off the list. And I had an opportunity to go. Like in Detroit's like one of those places. Like, when am I ever going to go to Detroit? So I took, huh? Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, maybe if I want to go to Hamtramck. It's called Hamtramck. I always called it Hamtramck, like where they play. Yeah, I didn't know that. Anyway, so but yeah, like other ones, like I've not been to Fenway yet. Like I could see myself going to Boston though, you know. I've not been to the Giants stadium, whose name I forget. Like I could see myself going to San Francisco, but Detroit, like
I really want to go to Wrigley. I've never been to Wrigley Field. That's like
it's like cool. It's historic, so like, you know, obviously it's just like it's lacking in the amenities front, but no, so the Tiger Stadium was I just thought it was gonna be very like middle of the road, like very average. But it impressed me more than what I thought. But what I'm into particularly is good team store. They have a really good team store for the Tigers there. It's like 2 levels. They have some really awesome stuff there. Like, and I'm sure some of this stuff's like co-branded where I could find the same sort of stuff for like the Reds, for example, at their team store, just with the Reds logo on it instead. But they had a really cool like selection of stuff going on there. So I was deeply appreciative of that. I didn't look at the price tags. I'm sure they were pretty ridiculous, but they had like new starter jackets. I haven't seen anybody like actually sell like new starter jackets, which should have happened already. I bought a Reds one off of eBay and it was expensive, but I had that.
I heard you were repping the Detroiters, and I think you should leave gear. You wore your Dan Flash's shirt while you were in Detroit.
I wore I have a Dan Flash's polo and I wore it around Detroit. I was pretty happy about it. And during game day, I was running around with my Louisville City shirt. I was so hoping I ran into a Detroit City fan who would have gotten all in a huff. Fuck Louisville City. I was really hoping that would happen. It didn't.
I feel like it would be like I feel like you would get fun ribbed by a Detroit fan if you had a. Probably. I mean, maybe not on a day that's not a Louisville City away game day.
Yeah, I didn't run into like the one of like the 2 people that run the Northern Growth account. So unfortunate, but no, it was a fun time. Detroit was a little cooler than I would have thought. So yeah, it was a neat experience. So that's what I'm into. A good team store.
All right, let's get into it. We had a big win this weekend. We had a good game.
Gigantic, and it comes on the heels of 2 other massive wins. I'm so happy they got the job done there. I was confident, but at the same time, like also kind of giving respect to the Battery and knowing the quality that they have. But I'm glad the team was able to kind of keep up their form, and it was a pretty, I don't know if comfortable is the right word, but like a pretty solid.
I mean, they were in control that whole game. It never felt like super at risk, other than it got a little squirrely at the very, very end.
Yeah, I mean
they had a cushion by the time that happened.
Yeah, so all in all, I was like super pleased about it. I remember being super stressed when we were talking this right before we started recording when Jansen missed his shot like 38 minutes into the game. I was watching. Obviously, I was not at the game because I was in Detroit, but I was watching the match from my phone at a tiki bar speakeasy.
Well,
but
and
I was
watching.
watching.
We were in our seats for that one. I did not realize watching it in real time how close that shot was, because we were on opposite side of the field for that. So I just saw that it went wide, but I saw the replay after the game. I didn't that hit post. That was real close.
Yeah. I was like, I hope that doesn't come back to bite us. This is one of those games where one goal could be the make or break. But,
Also,
well, I mean, I think we're already up at that point, which I guess
we were already up one. He got it back in the second half.
He did. I was happy about that.
Man, he's really kind of turned into our sniper out there. He has been on fire from distance.
I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it. Probably my favorite storyline from this team this year. That I feel like there's a bunch of storylines, but his emergence has been a lot of fun. I've really appreciated it. So I'm glad he got to contribute in such a big game. And then we got two of our what I'll call our unfair pickups. Both of these players, when we signed them, I'm like, well, that's not fair that we were able to get them. But Aiden McFadden and Phillip Goodrum banging in goals. Goodrum against his old former coach. He played with old Benny Pierman.
He looked good the moment he checked in too. He hit the ground running. He was he fit in real quick.
I remember I was talking with Jeff Milby after Soccer City, like after that happened. And we were kind of speculating on him potentially playing in the match in some capacity. And I was feeling pretty bullish on it because I feel like of any position where you could just kind of get uprooted and placed on another team, like and act within short notice, like striker's probably one of those roles.
Yeah.
I mean, not that there's not intricacies to it, but it's more like I think getting them up to speed is a much quicker process versus like the midfield or defense, for example. The only one that might be easier to kind of plug and play would be the goalkeeper. So, yeah, I kind of figured he was going to see some action, but the fact he scores on it, obviously I wanted that to happen, but I don't know how much time he'd get, if any. So, pretty nice, pretty awesome game for him to debut and score his first goal in, right? Like that's got to be like super memorable.
Yeah. Well, and to get to come into that atmosphere, because that place was packed and everybody was like amped up for that entire game.
I just realized somebody messaged me on Twitter asking about like a tifo or banner that was up, and I said I told him I'm like I'm not there. I didn't get to see it. Did you see anything?
I mean, we got in our seats like right as the game was starting, so I didn't catch one.
Oh, because I got really excited when he said that. I'm like, oh, there might be like a tifo or banner or something. Like I didn't realize that. So I'll have to continue to snoop. Or if you know anything about it, you can tweet at me.
I didn't see the team account.
Yeah, I hadn't seen anything in my light perusing of Twitter. I'm trying to really keep that healthy relationship going with it. Anyway, but like how was the atmosphere in the crowd and everything? That element I didn't get to like.
Yeah, like I said, it was packed. Everybody was amped up. Everybody was mad at the ref the whole game constantly, which is always fun.
That's a weekly thing.
I will say, like, it was a really good crowd. Everybody cheered at the right time. The thing about the like Fill the Fam games, though, it just like this is gonna make me sound so stuck up. But when we have a ton of new people at games, like for games like that, where it's people who maybe only come occasionally, I feel like I always get stuck with the most annoying person in the world directly behind us. Because I feel like the people who have been to the fewest games seem to have the strongest opinions about what everyone on the field should be doing constantly in a way that I just find very annoying. My biggest pet peeve is when someone's like yelling about how someone is doing something wrong on our team and they're referring to them as their number instead of their name. I'm like, I think if you knew enough about soccer to know whether or not what they're doing is right or wrong, you would know their name, at least probably.
That's sports. Honestly, like to me, it's the funniest when people do that with like UFC and like fighting and stuff like that. It's like, all right, but
I think you
get
will
in
share
there.
my frustration. The person that this guy singled out as like the guy that needs to get kicked off the team and is playing too much and doesn't understand why coach has him
Kicked
in
off
was
the
Ray.
team. Ooh, what was this infraction?
He thought that Ray was terrible and needed to get benched.
There's people that do think that out there.
Yeah, but those people know his name and not just number 7. So anyway, that's a pet peeve of mine. I love when it's packed. I love having new people at the games. People should come, but I will think less of you if you open your trap wrong.
Hear that? People sitting by Zach.
Section 221.
It's good. It's something I'm willing to endure. Getting good crowds like that, getting new people exposed. You know.
But the atmosphere was good. It was a really good. Like I said, I think it was like 13,500, somewhere around there. It's really packed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, both.
They had
the picture I saw, the crowds looked good.
Chuck got a light up Minecraft sword, which is pretty awesome.
There you go.
They're giving away airplanes. I noticed they waited until the end of the game to give away the airplanes. I told Lori when we passed it, I feel like they usually do the giveaways pregame, so the first however many people get it. And she was like, "Those airplanes can make it to the field from from the top row. They're not giving those away pregame."
That actually reminds me of something soccer adjacent. So Toronto FC, they've been pretty terrible for the most of their history, except for that kind of like that small span, like where they were like really good all of a sudden. But when they first started, they couldn't score, and when they finally scored their first goal, it was I think a few games into the season or something like that, and it was like a seat cushion giveaway, and everybody started throwing that shit onto the field. So yeah, it was a mess, but it ended up making for a pretty memorable moment for the club.
We've really come to regret our squid giveaway pregame.
Yeah. Did you ever see the movie Basketball?
Yeah.
By the guys who did South Park, he was talking about, oh man, what a bad time for him to miss that shot on free dozen egg night. People are just pumping their heads. That's such a good movie.
Yeah, I mean the place was rocking. That was a fun game and a fun atmosphere.
Yeah, and really, it sucks that the Battery scored it all, but it was basically garbage time.
It got a little. I mean, even though it was good that they had 3 goals rather than 2, because they got really squirrely at the end there.
I mean, I think those close contests tend to get a little spicy like that. But
one thing I wanted to point out, as soon as Goodrum checked in, he is really good at getting fouled.
Oh, does he know the dark arts?
He's got a knack. He's got a knack for the dark arts. He knows where to when to stick the leg out.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably part of his MO of being an annoying player to play against.
Oh yes,
that's good.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy you hate to have on any team other than your own.
Now, obviously, in terms of you mentioned people being mad at the officials. I believe this is before we start recording. We were talking about Amadou Dia's offside call.
He sequence. I have not. So that was not in the highlights package. So I have not had a chance to go back and check it. But in real time, he looked to be about 5 yards onside. It was not even close.
I kind of thought the same thing as well. I was like,
because it was not even a pass to him. I don't think, because it was a pass to Harris, and Harris just let it go through, and he ran onto it. Harris was ahead of him, so. And maybe the offside was on Harris instead of him. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But he was not even the furthest up Louisville City player, I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, and then on top of that, their goalkeeper very clearly set them down the ball and played the ball in, and Ray picked it off and chipped it into the goal, and then the ref took it back. That's when everyone lost it when that happened. He just didn't have control of the game, because I think they played it in before he wanted them to play it or something. But it's just he didn't seem to have a good handle on things for the whole game.
I hate when they become divas like that.
Management of the game from the ref.
Yeah. No, that was definitely the case for the previous match as well. I hate when they get like that. You kick it just a little too soon. Like, oh no, or it's like a foot forward from where they want it to be. It's like, all right, guy.
Well, and also, man, I like this is a constant soccer thing, but he was letting people get away with really extending where the throw-ins were coming from. I think I caught one that was like 20 yards away from where the ball went out of bounds. The ball went out of bounds in the final third, and the throw-in was close to midfield.
Yeah, you gotta reel that stuff in. Otherwise, those guys will take full advantage of that. So, I mean, as long as he was loose across the board, then at least you're consistent.
I am a big fan of refs who are very pedantic about throw-in locations.
That's fair. Like that one, I'm more understanding when they get like
that happens. That's not uncommon, but it's just in general, he just was sort of letting people do whatever the whole game.
Yeah.
And then a couple, like I said, I haven't watched the replays, so maybe it was offsides, but in real time that did not look anywhere near offsides to me.
Well, thankfully, that one didn't come back to bite us. Jansen's very close call didn't come back to bite us. The guys got the job done. Like that was
my
God,
so huge. I mean, didn't just beat him, but like 3-1 against the second best team in the league.
Yeah. I mean, this team, like throughout their history, always steps up for these big moments. And I love it.
I mean, they were the best team in the league and then signed one of the best attackers in the league mid-season. It's just insane. Like a real embarrassment of riches right now for the team.
And right now, I mean, they seem very much on a crash course for the ever elusive Players' Shield, the regular season title.
Yeah, but they got 9 points out of the hardest 3-game stretch of the season.
Yeah, I'm still just blown away by that. Like, it's one thing for those like wins to have happened individually, but like, I mean, this late in the season where you kind of know like the value of those ones, like when you play somebody early on, like you might not fully know, but like knowing the value of the play, have all those matches happen concurrently. And I know we've talked about this previously, but the stretch of games that they have from here on out, I mean, there's a few games to look out for, but frankly, a lot of garbage they're playing. As long as they do what they should do.
The toughest part of the season's behind them now.
Yeah, like you got to be feeling really good between their table position and then like what's ahead. Away to Hartford, away to North Carolina, Loudoun coming here, away to Tulsa, away to Detroit. The next hard one would probably be Memphis in late September. And and we've beaten teams better than them.
Yeah. I mean, they've still got Indy and Tampa.
That's the hardest, like 2 remaining games.
Yeah.
Right there. But aside from those 3, nobody there is really good. Even San Antonio and Phoenix are not doing great in their respective conference either.
So I'll mention this because I'm a worrier. Are you concerned if they start to build up a bit of a cushion in this stretch? Like if they end up closing out the season on like a month worth of games that don't really matter, they've already locked things up pretty much. Are you worried about
complacency,
like just sort of losing the edge a bit going into the playoffs?
No.
I know I'm always concerned when a team locks stuff up too early, because when you flip the switch off, sometimes it can be really hard to flip it back on in the playoffs.
No, I agree. And normally I would probably lean more towards that, but that is, I mean, since the start of that season, like that whole element has been such a big deal for Coach Cruz. Like he talks about like him talking about the mentality side and staying on top of things. There's no way in hell he's going to let those guys relax at any point. They're not going to relax until they've lifted the trophy in the finals. Like I think he learned a lot from last season, and he's not going to let any of that stuff creep in, even in the slightest.
Yeah. Well, and so they've got 2 games in hand, but they're only up 4 points on Charleston right now. So Charleston could be nipping at their heels. They might not walk up anything. Super
No, I mean it's far from over, but man, that's
it's just
so
like
much comfort and relief.
A couple Charleston losses really sort of puts them in the clear because the next team back is Tampa, and they're 13 points back.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Charleston. I'm going to look up their list of games that they have to play. Is Orange County, where are they at anymore? They're not good. Okay. So I'm trying to look through their matches of which ones matter. So they play Sacramento.
Tampa.
Yeah, they play Tampa. They got some garbage coming up too. How are the Switchbacks doing? I think Switchbacks are still
Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Switchbacks are at 5th in the West. So
Rhode Island's tricky though. They still have Rhode Island left. Are
you saying that just to make us feel better?
They played Rhode Island second to last game. I could see Rhode Island being spoiler. They feel like a team that could be spoiler for somebody.
And look, they have a nasty habit of drawing. They drew to Hartford. They lost to Detroit. They drew to the Rising. They drew against the Riverhounds, who they play again later. So there's a lot of self-inflicted wounds along the way. And should that continue, I mean, they just need to drop a couple points, and that's just going to significantly increase Louisville City's chances. Because realistically, if anybody's going to catch them, it's going to be the Battery, right?
Yeah. I think
because New Mexico is still a few points even behind them.
They're 13 points ahead of Tampa right now.
We still have so we still have 2 games on the Battery as well. Yeah, I'm feeling very good. As long as they can, continue to play up to the standard that we know.
Well, looking into the West Coast, Louisville City's 8 points ahead of New Mexico, who's in the lead in the West right now. So yeah,
I think it's this late in the game, this is as comfortable as it's ever going to get. Yeah, I don't see a team running away with super significant margins this late into the year. So this is about as much as we could have asked for. And you got to think about the momentum side of things, just coming off this sort of stretch. Yeah, now there will be a challenge with the coaching staff to make sure they remain focused.
And they've added more scoring up top too.
Yeah,
I mean, now you're going to be able to play Harris and Goodrum, just one of you run as hard as you can and then check the other one in. You're going to get full speed from both of those guys every game now.
Yep. You're getting Perez,
whichever order they start in.
You're getting Perez back into the mix now, kind of more.
Oh yeah, we didn't even mention that. Yeah, he checked in.
So you got him. I mean, still haven't heard about Brian Ownby. That's still a possibility. I know they're not going to rush it in any capacity, I guess, especially considering the state of the roster. But
definitely no reason to rush him back right now.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's just for the playoffs, that's kind of his thing too. So, but I'm just.
It's the perfect season for Ownby if he just only has to play in the playoffs.
Watch him come back in the playoffs and just be an absolute monster, and just kind of
I've been lifting weights for 9 months.
But how good of a story would that be, right? The guy who's supposed to get captain gets injured right before the season, and then comes back in the playoffs to help be that final push. You okay over there?
I got clawed by a cat.
The dog household over here. No, I'm not getting attacked by anybody.
It's dinner time. Somebody's letting me know.
That's fair. But I mean, all in all, Louisville City is in a very good spot. Very proud of them. Very happy. I'm not overly concerned about complacency.
Yeah.
Just got to take it one game at a time and continue to do what they've been doing. But they know that I'm not too worried about them kind of falling off the track. So we'll see. honestly
cross
how
that bridge.
other results pan out, because that might be more indicative of our comfort than anything else.
Looking at how everything shakes out, they might actually lock up first place with several games left this season.
Yeah, that would be spectacular. We're gonna, we're on track to win a trophy we've not got. That's really cool. It's not the trophy. It's this, it's our second tier trophy. Still a bigger one to get. No. In America, the playoffs matter more.
I think it says something that we've been to the finals. How many times? 5.
How many times have we been in the finals?
Huh?
4.
4. And we've never won this. I think that says something about how hard this is to win.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I'm not saying
whatever your importance is, I think this is the harder one to win.
Yeah, no, I don't debate that, but in terms of prestige and what you want, if you could pick a trophy, you're going to pick the playoff one. That's just how American sports work.
I think this one is like winning the regular season. I think is more indicative of your quality as a team.
I don't disagree. Again, I totally hear the arguments for like a regular season title.
I think
that's
the
not
negative
the main one in America.
Like there's not enough interleague play for like the whoever has the most points East versus West to really matter. And I think that's what sort of kind of brings it down a little. I think there's been several years where they've been the best team, but the Western Conference has been more unbalanced, and so that team has more points.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the knock against it.
Well, and also, like, can you name the past few Players Shield winners? I can't. I'm more likely to tell you off who won the finals. Like, right? Like that's also kind of a barometer of it. So either way,
I think who won it every year that Louisville City was second in it.
Yeah, right. At the end of the day, though, it's another trophy, and this is a huge accolade that I've wanted to see the team get. Yeah. So, not wrapped up yet, but looking pretty good.
Yeah, everything's good going into Hartford.
Yep. Now, any final thoughts on Louisville City before we pivot over to Racing, who had no matches but a lot of wild news?
A lot of news that I have mixed feeling. That Racing's really playing the head against the heart on me.
Yeah. Let's dive into it. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you're probably tuned in. There's been a number of shakeups on the roster. They've making money moves here. We had,
and from what I understand, more moves to come.
Yeah. Yep. There's more to
come.
Team
is very serious about making the playoffs this season.
We lose Carson Pickett. We'll lose Jaelin Howell. And in return, we've signed the defender replacement is Angela Barron, young Colombian international, who does not appear to have played in the NWSL. Looks like she played in Colombia.
She's
only
really
20 years
young,
old.
Right?
Yeah. She'll be turning 21 here next month. It appears.
But Colombia has played really well. For the World Cup and the Olympics, Colombia played well. So
yeah, that young playing on their national team, that's a good sign. But that's also
I don't know much about her outside of just like Colombia has had a pretty good run the last 2 tournaments.
That'll be like we'll kind of have to see how she fits into the NWSL and adapts there, and we also got to keep in mind she's young. She might be more of a piece for the future type of thing.
Well, rather than just they need bodies back there. I mean, before that signing, after Pickett left, we had literally 4 defenders to play 4 spots. There was no one else.
That was the first thing you said, when the Howell news came out about her departure, that trade. Yeah. And then that's the other one. That's probably the more marquee one. Bethany
Jaelin Howell for Bethany Balser.
Which, let's just go ahead and dive into it. You found you found something interesting via social media about her.
Yeah. So before we get into like the merits of the move, I thought it was, so she tweeted on Twitter, the platform that I will always refer to as Twitter. So she tweeted like I'll just read it. So my clients have no idea that I play professional soccer, and they've been so supportive of me during this move. I am so grateful for them and that they are willing to continue virtually with me. I wanted to say it is such a blessing that I don't have to worry about my internship. So it's a thing you kind of forget, but a lot of NWSL players have second jobs because, like, even pretty high level players, it's you need to supplement the salary from the league, and you kind of don't really think about like if you get traded and have to move across the country, that interferes with your other job.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So I'm not sure exactly. We found her LinkedIn page. I think she's a counselor. And so that really, like, especially a job like a counselor where you're working with clients, that's like a big disruption. You have, like, not only does that affect you, but it's like all of your clients. I thought that was really interesting. I'm glad she's being open about that in public, because it's like a thing a lot of people don't really think about. You think of players as just like pieces on a chessboard and not people with lives that get uprooted when they move.
Yeah. I interpret kind of this that she's setting herself up for her post like playing career, but like this isn't like the NFL, she's not making millions where she's going to just like, that's the money she'll like ride out the rest of her life on. She's going to have a career after this one.
Like she's been really public about like mental health issues and things. I know she did like a forum with the Surgeon General on like the effects of like loneliness and isolation, I think during the COVID lockdowns or after sort of post that. So she seems to be like a pretty big champion of mental health stuff. She's not to also to get into soccer stuff. I think she's like the third leading scorer in the last 5 years or something like that in the whole league.
I was looking at her like past history. All have been with the Reign. This season she has 5 goals, 7 last year, 9 for 21 and 22.
Very consistent, from what I remember.
Yeah, so she's scoring like kind of healthy volumes, and I guess that kind of comes up to the merits of the trade, where I'm personally having difficulty not like understanding. Like I understand just like coming to terms with it mostly. I guess kind of the head and the heart sort of thing. Like the logic to me makes sense, right? Like so Flint is essentially beat out Howell for starting job. Therefore, you have Jaelin, who's I hate to phrase it this way, expendable, and that's all of a sudden your trade chip to get more attacking talent.
They are stacked in that central midfield position right now, to the point where they are struggling to get everyone onto the field at the same time because they have so many players that play in that same area. So it makes sense to trade one of those to get some help in the attack or in the defense.
And this has been, I mean, I've seen other people call this out. It is kind of weird to trade your captain away, and especially when she writes on social media about being shocked about it. So it is what it is. I understand the logic of it. Not a player you want to see go, but you understand it. You kind of see her as part of the plan for the like longer term. But at the same time, we can't keep planning for the long term. Eventually, you kind of got to act for the here and now.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking of it as like it's a big it's a tactical win, but a vibes loss.
Yeah.
And then I was sort of thinking of it as like, if you look at just the Howell trade on its own, I think that's probably a net plus for the team this season. But like if you look, like they traded Pickett for money, and then they traded most of that money and Howell for Balser. And I think if you think of that as like a Pickett and Howell for Balser trade, I think that's not like a net win. That's a net loss between the two moves.
Yeah. But
so that's sort of where I'm at.
And I'm still kind of reserving judgment on everything because there's more moves happening and it seems like the dust still hasn't settled yet. So I guess
would imagine we're getting more defenders because I can't see.
I'd like to
They
think
just
so.
need bodies to finish the season back there. I think having one more player is good, but realistically, like we need at least a center back and an outside back.
Yeah, for the record, I do not know what any of these other future moves are. I just know that it sounds like they are not done. So I'm, all in all, I'm going to reserve judgment on, but I do appreciate the fact they are doing something, right? Because this team at this point,
they're not just gonna to coast to ninth place or whatever.
Yeah,
they're trying to get to the playoffs.
It's like they at this point. Like I feel pretty comfortable saying it didn't look like they were going to be making the playoffs. Like mathematically, sure. Like you could probably send that. I wasn't going to bet on it, and I'm sure there's people in the front office that were feeling that same way as well. So they're doing something, right? Like I compared to this, I'm a Bengals fan. Like for most of my life following them, they have been.
Yeah, the Bengals would have just ridden it out.
Exactly. They're very inactive. Like anytime free agency comes up, like historically, we're just like, we just watch all these like pieces go off the board and they're not doing anything. It's changed a little bit. And they've also been very accepting of mediocrity. And so like them doing something here makes me feel good knowing that they're not like, oh, we'll be all right. We won't be the worst team in the league. We'll be middle of the pack or whatnot. They're going for it, maybe they end up being worse off for it. Who knows? But at least they're doing something. They're trying to advance themselves and they're not just kind of coasting on where we're at. And I
think there is
that
a danger
fact
with the opposite approach, though, because there are teams, I think, like the 76ers in the NBA or kind of like this, where seem to just be constantly in a state of blowing it up, moving on to the next thing, where it seems nothing ever like gets any legs.
Fair, but I mean, they gave it like
sort of be in the middle of those two.
Yeah, they gave it a large majority of the season. They say there's still time. Like let's act now.
We've said all season, like they just like they feel like they're right there and they can't get over the hump, and so like maybe shaking things up a little bit gets them that last little push.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe this is what needs to happen, and we'll also have to think that Bev inherited this roster, and now that she has more control, it's starting to shape the team more so in her vision.
We didn't mention it, but Bev played with Balser.
They
in Seattle, so they have a history.
She had time to work with this team, see what she had, figure out like what was working, what wasn't, and has been able to act accordingly. And I'm sure Ryan Dale has obviously probably been very involved in that mix as well. So right now for me, it's a little bit of trust the process, more so kind of waiting to see how everything shakes out.
You know what I appreciate, because we were snooping on her to get details. I did go to Balser's LinkedIn page. She already has it updated to Racing Louisville FC as her employer.
I do like when they update their stuff real quick.
Things with the socials.
Yeah, I low key appreciate that. Good on you, Bethany.
I have looked at players that have been here for like over a season, and it's still the last team.
Some players just never like embrace their team. Like Emily Fox is kind of like a mercenary like that. I don't think she ever really put much racing. She was just more a soccer player, And I don't know. I take pride when they flaunt where they're at, or embrace where they're at. And it seems like she's being a good sport about it. Just like, how long she was with the Reign, like that sucks. That stings. And it sounds like she was kind of caught off guard by the move too, based off her social media post. But, that's the game. And both players at the end of the day might be happier in the long run for it. Maybe not. We'll find out.
Well, we didn't talk much about it. The Pickett move really hurts.
Yeah.
From the vibes. That's a double whammy of like, that's vibes and tactics. That one sucks.
Yeah, she was.
She is going to be very hard to replace on the field for them.
And you have to imagine outside back is somewhere in that potential mix of additional signings that could come, or even by the time you're listening, have happened.
I would be very surprised if there's not an outside back.
Yeah, me too.
Somewhere.
Me too.
But anyway, she's closer to home now, so like best of luck to Pickett.
Now
I
will say if I am going to be critical, kind of wish these moves would have happened earlier during the break period for more acclimation. But I also get that these deals take time, and maybe they wanted it to happen, all this stuff to happen sooner than it did. So
who knows?
There's a lot I don't know, but if I could wave a magic wand, I would have had this happen earlier in the break, said that these players could have had more time to get to know each other, their new teammates, and kind of maybe at least get a little bit of like reps on the training ground to start to build some sort of synergy. But hey, it is what it is. The first racing game back just got way more interesting after all this.
This weekend, quick turnaround.
Yeah, no, I mean, like it was already going to be interesting. Like, all right, back to the regular season grind, the push for the playoffs, and all of a sudden now it's that plus, hey, the roster has been shaken up. There's drama.
Pretty important game, playoff wise. Like
and it's a game where it overlaps with Louisville City. This is not friendly to a podcast that does both. I'm on the radio call for Louisville City, so you're gonna have to. You're gonna have to carry the racing weight for me.
Are they both road games? I can't.
No, racing's home.
Racing's home. That's even. It's when they overlap and they're both road games. That's a little better because then at least you can just dual screen it.
Nope, it's the worst kind where one team's away.
So we'll have to split up this weekend.
Divide and conquer. That's why there's two of us. So. But yeah, so
but just as far as standings, like it's you mentioned, like it would have been really nice to have these moves earlier in this break because they really need to hit the ground running in this last stretch. There's not really time to get acclimated. So yeah, Chicago's in 7th right now. Like Louisville Racing's in 9th. Chicago's the team they need to hang a loss on if they want more chances to get a playoff spot.
Yeah. But Phillip Goodrum said in his Soccer City interviews, talking about like just like being in the film room very heavily as soon as he got there. I'm sure that these gals are very much in that same sort of position. Bethany is probably going to be like a Phillip Goodrum sort of situation where you could probably see her sooner than later.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the same thing we saw with Louisville City, where she checks in.
Yeah, Barron maybe not, because I feel like there's a lot more intricacies you really need to know as a defender.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to just throw a defender in.
Yeah, so I don't.
A younger defender.
Yeah, I don't even know if she's part of the 18 in this first one, simply because like there needs to be a little bit of acclimation. But who knows? Maybe we're not giving her enough credit. I don't know. Again, this might also be contingent on what else is going to happen in the coming days, or again, what has already happened by the time you're listening to
also this. Kind of interesting because Seattle is the next game after Chicago.
Oh yeah, that'll be interesting. Jaelin's certainly going to be playing with the chip on her shoulder.
Oh boy.
At least if
Bethany
maybe too. I mean, it's true.
Oh boy.
We'll see that. Maybe Bethany comes out just as hard against her former club as well. We'll see. So a lot more. If you asked me a few days ago, like what we talk about with racing on here, I would have kind of just been speculating the game coming up and
so many moves.
Yeah, and then now, a lot happened in a short period of time. So.
And we'll probably have more to talk about next episode, I would guess.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, probably will. So covered a lot of ground today. It was exciting. A little bit of mixed bag action, in terms of some of the losses can feel bad, at least on the emotional front. Logic front, maybe it's a little more sound, but Louisville City got their huge win, seem in a pretty comfortable position. So fun. We're starting to hit the back end of the soccer season. That home stretch starting to get closer to that fall weather.
All the games get real important now.
Yeah, that trophy lifting
especially
season.
For racing. Every game really matters for racing now.
Yeah. A lot on there. So, all right. Well, Zach, did you have any additional thoughts, comments, anything that we didn't get to?
Nope. Big week.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you guys as always for tuning in. Listen to us chat about your two favorite soccer teams here in town. We'll be back next week and hopefully a racing win. I don't really feel like I need to throw that. I hope Louisville City wins out there because
6-point weekend next week.
Should. But we'll see. 6-point weekend. That's what we're going for. 3 points for each of us because we were dividing and conquering.
Specifically, a 6-point weekend for us.
Yeah.
Maybe the old man team can win and we'll make it a 9-pointer.
Oh, if only. All right. Well, take care. Thank you guys for tuning in again. Thomas Morados.
Bye, y'all.